Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. What's good, everybody? What's good on the internet? What's good in life? The name is Akeem Balaam. I did say that when I launched this channel, this new channel, I did say that I wanted to expand my horizons as far as topics to delve into outside of the sports realm. And I think a big part of the reason as to why I wanted to do that is because I wanted to, just make my channel all the way more well-rounded. By the way, for those that don't know, I'm just now getting over a bit of a cold that I've had the last few days. So it may show in my voice or even potentially in my delivery, but I'll leave that all up for y'all out there to dissect. But I figured that now would be a really good time to certainly delve into one of those particular topics. But it kind of has some sports overtones to it. And of course, I'm talking about the election. Now, I understand a lot of you out there voted for Kamala Harris. I understand a lot of you out there voted for Donald Trump. At this point, we know what the election results are. They are what they are. It is what it is. But one element of this that I particularly wanted to get into is this whole thing about masculinity. Masculinity and how it decided the election. And that has been something that has been talked about a lot in a lot of the post-election Monday morning, Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning quarterbacking when folks dissect what happened with the election results. And that's something that I wanted to get into because coming from the sports world, I'm around this masculinity a lot. I see it a lot. I hear it a lot. And it certainly has a way of showing itself, this masculinity stuff. And it's amazing when individuals, they'll do interviews or they'll talk with media outlets and they will talk about how they say that they will vote for Trump because they figured, the Republican Party makes me feel a lot more masculine. I feel a lot more accepted in my masculinity by the Republican Party or by the Trump campaign because of whatever. And that has really been a big part of the discussion ever since the election. And here's my response to that. Define masculinity. Define masculinity. When these folks do these interviews, or when these folks talk about what they deem as quote unquote masculine, quote unquote, I would like for them to give a direct description of what they believe masculinity really is. Because I feel like that's a conversation that we need to have as men. What is masculinity? I feel like that is something that we need to have a conversation about. What do you define as masculine? And particularly, what was it about the Republican Party's messaging or the Trump campaign's messaging that made you feel so-called accepted as a man? Because it sounds like to me, there's a lot of folks out here that take the concept of masculinity and they really have the concept of masculinity all screwed up. And if I was asking these folks one particular thing, I would ask them one particular thing in general. How do you see masculinity, particularly as it relates to women? particularly as it relates to women. And I think that's where we get into the meat of the bone. Because there's a lot of masculinity out here that's being talked about as if it's toxic masculinity, because it actually is toxic masculinity. And the reason as to why I particularly want to get into the women aspect of this is because I really believe that when these folks go and they do these interviews and they talk about, oh, what makes me feel masculine? I feel masculine because of this, or I feel masculine because of that. What a lot of them aren't saying is what they define masculinity as. See, there's been a lot of talk about the manosphere as of late. And all these toxic podcasts and all these toxic programs, you know, the Joe Rogan Experience, Andrew Tate, Barstool, all of these outlets that cater to mostly young white men. And they don't make them feel ashamed in any way, shape, or form about what they see masculinity as. Because when you think about masculinity, see, you got to remember, you're talking mostly, when you think about these podcasts, you're talking mostly to an audience of 18 to 29-year-old white men. In other words, teenagers, 20-somethings, early 30-somethings. In other words, folks who are on the backside of being a millennial or Gen Z. And that is the sawdust that they are being fed by the Joe Rogans of the world, the Andrew Tates of the world, the Barstools of the world. That's where they're being accepted to be made as a man. But see, here's the thing. Joe Rogan, Andrew Tate, Barstool, it's like giving a kid sweets. Yeah, kids love sweets, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's good for them. There's a difference between what these young cats want to hear and what they need to hear. And what they need to hear is basically, look, your concept of masculinity is screwed. Because a lot of the concepts of masculinity that a lot of these young dudes have, it's not necessarily based on how much, they place on a sports bet. It's not necessarily based on how much they can bench press when they're in the gym. I see it with my own two eyes. I live in Columbia, South Carolina. I live in a college town, and let me tell you, the toxic masculinity on that campus is absolutely out of control. Absolutely out of control. But here's what I want to get into. When you sell masculinity to a young dude, it's not about sports. It's not about big muscles or anything like that. The most powerful aphrodisiac that you can sell to a young man at that age is unfettered sexual access to women. Let me say that one more time. The most powerful aphrodisiac that you can sell to a young man is unfettered sexual access to hegemonically attractive women. I'm going to say it one more time for emphasis. The most powerful aphrodisiac that you can sell to a young man is unfettered sexual access to women that they deem attractive. That is, in my opinion, without question, the number one thing that these podcasts, particularly Andrew Tate, that these podcasts are selling to these young men. They are filling the heads of these young men with all this sawdust and all this crap, and they are eating it up as if it's candy. That is the part of masculinity that a lot of these young dudes really embrace. But like I said, all of that is candy. All of that is sweets. What they don't want to hear, but what they need to hear is, what is it about yourself that believes that you deserve unfettered sexual access to women? Why is it, do you believe that sex is something that has to be forced as opposed to something that has to be earned? Because what a lot of these men understand, and why they listen to these toxic podcasts, is because they understand that they understand something about themselves, that they're too not manly enough, not masculine enough to admit. And that is that they don't have enough redeeming qualities to be able to attract a woman the right way. So they embrace the Joe Rogans, they embrace the Andrew Tates, they embrace the Barstools, because like I said, it's like candy, but they don't want to hear the truth about themselves. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. None of us is. But what I will say is that a lot of these dudes out here, that is a big part of the reason as to why they feel embraced by the Republican Party and why they feel embraced by these toxic podcasts, by this toxic manosphere that's out there. And you want to know who understands that? This Nick Fuentes loser. Because Nick Fuentes, the night of the election, what was Nick Fuentes saying? Nick Fuentes was on his live stream that I'm surprised even gets listeners, and he's even part of the problem too. But Nick Fuentes was on his live stream talking about there'll never be a woman president, men win again, and then he said, "Your body, my choice." He actually had the stones to actually say, "Your body, my choice." And that was a phrase that was being repeated at colleges, at high schools, even at elementary schools, all over the country. Because one thing Nick Fuentes, see, here's the thing. Joe Rogan, Andrew Tate, Barstool, they may be one thing. But it's Nick Fuentes who lifted the curtain. Because he basically said the silent part out loud. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier. The most powerful aphrodisiac, the most powerful thing that you can sell these young dudes that, are on the backside of puberty, the most powerful thing you can sell them is to not be ashamed that you feel that you deserve unfettered sexual access to hegemonically attractive women. Now, here's the thing about it. What is it about unfettered sexual access to women? What about that makes you masculine? And that is something that I feel like a lot of men out here need to be honest with themselves about. What is it about sex that makes you feel masculine? See, that's the problem. And that is what we need to have a conversation about as men. Why do we base our masculinity and how manly we feel based on having a high body count? And then on top of everything else, the same men that will go ahead and they will consider themselves quote unquote manly, or they will consider themselves studly if they have a high body count. These are the same young men out here. And maybe I'm talking to you, and hopefully I am talking to you, because this ain't the candy that you're going to get from Joe Rogan and Andrew Tate and Barstool. This is you eating your vegetables watching this video. Because a lot of yous out here, the same types of adjectives that you will give to yourselves for having a high body count, if that's a woman who has a high body count, you're going to call them a slut. You're going to call them a whore. You're going to call them easy. You're going to call them all these mean and nasty names because you believe that women exist for only one and one reason only, and that is to appeal to the prurient desires of young men, of you. Now, here's the thing. Now, this is where we get real funky. This your body, my choice crap that's going on here because of losers like Nick Fuentes. Imagine this. What if somebody said that shit to your sister? What if somebody said that shit to your niece? What if somebody said that shit to your mother? You wouldn't like it, would you? You wouldn't like it? Thought so. So what gives you liberties to have to go ahead and say that same crap to somebody else? But I wanted to get on here because, like I said, this whole concept of masculinity and what we view masculinity as, it's been screwed. And a lot of folks out here have the concept of masculinity completely messed up. And that's why I say it's time to redefine what masculinity really is. A lot of these dudes that go ahead and they call people beta males because they don't fit into the hegemonic concept of what masculinity is, sounds like projection if you ask me. But rate, comment, react, reply, add, and subscribe. Once again, I'm just one guy getting on here and wanted to share my 2 thoughts, but my 2 cents, because, like I said, what's going on with this masculine crap and this toxic masculinity crap, it sounds like a lot of dudes out here, it sounds like a lot of yous out here don't want to hear the truth. There's nothing masculine about your body, my choice. There's nothing masculine about feeling like you deserve unfettered sexual access to women because you know that you don't want to do the work on yourselves to actually put yourself in a position where you can actually earn that access the right way. A woman does not owe you sex just because you spit some fly pickup line at her at the bar. A woman does not owe you sex just because of your physique. A woman does not owe you sex just because of your background. And a lot of you out here need to understand that. But once again, like I said, rate, comment, react, reply, add, subscribe. Once again, I'm Akeem Balaam signing off. See you on the internet someplace.